Welcome to the Agents of Fandom podcast, where we have a very special roundtable episode on the first half of the first season of Moon Knight. But before I introduce our guests, I am joined, of course, by my wonderful co-host, Garrett. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Just released my first review in a while for Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is a fantastic movie. It's a top 10 all-time film for me. So if you guys have a chance to go check that out, you definitely should. And my review is up on the website. Other than that, I'm super stoked to get into it with some familiar faces and some new faces. And we got an exciting episode for you guys.
We sure do. And it's an exciting day for me too, because I finally have internet again. I'm set up in my new house. I've been hyping it up for a long time, and I finally got my nice background set up. So I will do a nice tour of all the Funkos and the comics later in the show. But before that, it's late night for us, but it's early morning for a couple of our guests. So first off, I will introduce at the top of the screen. I'll just go in this order for our YouTube viewers. One of our brand new Agents of Fandom, Layla. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm so excited to just come and praise Oscar Isaac for like however long we're here, because that's all I seem to do nowadays.
And we're super stoked to have you on the team and to be our resident Oscar Isaac stan.
Yes, I'm very happy, and I'm absolutely loving everyone in the team. It's just such like a fun environment, so I'm so excited to see where we go.
We've been having a lot of fun, so check out our TikTok for Layla's videos that have been up there lately. And it's early morning for another one of our guests. We have Mo, a returning guest from Streamr News. How's it going, Mo?
Going good. I'm just trying to down my coffee, so I've got some energy for the next hour and a bit. But yeah, no, thanks for having me back on again. I enjoyed the one last time on. I guess your audience must have loved it as well, because you begged me to come back.
Exactly. We begged and we pleaded. We had to negotiate, offer him lots and lots of money.
Our people talked to his people. It was a big
thing.
So we'll wait a while to go back to Mo, let this caffeine kick in a little bit. We are joined as well with Richard Nevins from thedirect.com. How's it going, Rich?
Doing good. It's late night for me, not crazy late, on about 10 o'clock, me and Garrett on the same time zone. But no, I'm excited to get into Moon Knight. Got my star David, just like Mark Spector, and I'm ready to go.
Back to back in it.
Love it.
You know that's right.
I love it. Back-to-back episodes for Rich. And this is very exciting because we have a first-time guest on the pod from Collider.com, Sydney McIntyre. How's it going, Sydney?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing so well. We are so excited to have you on.
No reason to be nervous. We are so excited to get your input on everything and to finally meet you. And
we have all done a first podcast at least once.
Really?
So,
okay.
So don't worry.
When I was asked, I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm like, what's crazy with writing? Like, I feel like when people read your work and stuff like that, they forget like it's a person behind it that's like, they could be nervous or like shy or so I was like, listen, like I know my work may sound one way, but like when I'm on the spot, I'm like, oh my gosh. But I was super excited to definitely come on.
Good.
We're very excited to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I feel honored.
Before we dive into the Moon Knight aspect of things, we got to break down a few things first. We have a awesome giveaway going on where we have, hold on, let me get it in the screen here. We have a signed copy of our friend, where is it here? Anthony Francisco, former guest of the pod, former Marvel Studios artist, the man behind Baby Groot, the man behind Hulk's costume from Thor Ragnarok. If you can see it in my background here for our YouTube viewers. He's the one who designed that. We have a signed copy right here of his new book, Uber Monsters Volume 1, where he breaks down a bunch of his creations. As you can see, we got Loki here, Star-Lord, Ronan, all of his concept art from his Marvel Studios days. But it gets better, because it's a signed copy from Anthony Francisco from Marvel Studios with a hand-drawn Baby Groot from the man himself. So that is a very exciting giveaway. I just knocked over Darth Maul. That's a very exciting giveaway that we have going on. All you have to do.
What are you, the Phantom Menace?
Yeah, exactly. I'm young Anakin over here. I'm Obi-Wan sending him to his apparent death. But all you got to do to win that one is head over to Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star rating, and write yourself a nice review. It's phenomenal odds to win a super, super cool giveaway because nobody likes writing written reviews. Nobody wants to go over there and do that. You have to click like 3 buttons and then write a sentence. It's a lot of work. So you have a great chance to do that. So head over to Apple Podcasts and do that. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please help us combat the YouTube algorithm, like the video, and follow Agents of Fandom on all of our socials. Now, before we get into the Moon Knight, I want to just give our viewers a chance to get to know everyone a little bit. I want to know, what are your interests? What are your main interests in this industry? So whether it's Marvel, whether it's DC, Star Wars, who are your top characters? Who are your what are your top stories? And what fostered your fandom? Like, how old were you when you decided, like, wow, I love this? For me, it was Spider-Man, the animated series in the 90s. I'd watch it every day after school. Well, I guess it was before I even started going to school, but it was every day at 6 p.m. And I just absolutely loved it. And it fostered my love for the MCU. Layla, I want to start with you. What's the top tier of your fandom and where did it come from?
So I'm mainly Marvel and Star Wars. I appreciate the DC, but I'm not like a big DC fan. The first time I kind of was introduced to it was from my sister. She was a big Marvel fan, and I have this really weird memory of me going to the cinema with my sisters and my grandma, and both my sisters went to watch Thor: The Dark World, and we went to watch Cloud with a Chance of Meatballs because I was really young. And I was really jealous that they were going to watch this cool film and I was stuck watching a cartoon. So then after that, I kind of like tried to latch onto my sister whenever she watched any Marvel movie. But the first one that really got me was Civil War. I think it was just like the introduction of Spidey, and then it kind of went from there. And then Star Wars, honestly, I watched them all when I was younger, but it was really The Mandalorian that got me fully into it for obvious reasons, I think. Yeah,
I was just gonna ask. I wonder what draws you to these two universes.
I don't know. But yeah, no, I'm a big lover of The Mandalorian, and I think Din Djarin is up there my favorite Star Wars characters, but favorite Marvel character, I'd have to say like either Spider-Man or like Thor, maybe.
Yes.
There you go. There you go. Well, I got my Spider-Man wall of Funkos over here. I know you probably got something like that too. But of course, I got my Din ready to roll. He's here. He's here with little Grogu.
Very nice.
So next up on the screen, we have Mo. Mo, tell us who your favorites are and where did this fandom come from?
Okay, so favorite kind of situation would probably be, I think it probably is just going to be Marvel, only because I think it's the most accessible to sort of just get into. I was watching the Spider-Man films when I was younger with my dad, the Tobey Maguire ones. I used to go to the cinema for all of them that came out and watch them with him. And then when you sort of watch those ones, that's my first introduction to Marvel in general, to the comics as well, because I watched them. And then I started reading the comics. So it was the Spider-Man films, the X-Men films. But I think my first real fandom film ever was probably Harry Potter. The very first, I think The Philosopher's Stone. I think that was the first film I watched in the cinema as well when I was younger. So that was sort of my first real introduction into things that would become very fandom heavy. So I thought that was quite good. And then J.K. Rowling went and ruined everything. But
that's funny because Harry Potter is like the first books I ever read, and I have like such a vivid memory of
it.
of being in like, and actually, Rich, this pertains to you because my family, we would go to Lake Tahoe every year for like Thanksgiving.
Okay,
and
all right.
that's when the movies would come out. And so the first one came out while we were there. And my parents were like, "Oh, he reads these books." My sister read those books also. Like, let's go take him to see Harry Potter. And there's like, the trials before he gets to Voldemort at the end and Professor Quirrell. And there's like a potions one that's in the book, but it's not in the movie. And I was like, 6 or something. I like legitimately stood up in the movie theater and I was like, "Hey, this isn't how it happened." And my parents were like, "Yo, dude, sit down, like chill out." But that's so funny that you mentioned that because that was a big start for me too.
I think
That's
yeah.
hilarious. How about
Yeah,
you, Rich?
I think it was for that for
Oh,
everyone.
sorry, Mo.
No, it's fine. Carry on.
No, you finish your thought.
Go for it.
Oh no, I'm done now. I'm just,
Okay. Well, fair enough. Rich, on to you.
Go.
Yeah. No, it's actually funny now that I think about it. I remember seeing the first couple of Harry Potter movies in theaters, mostly because came out like 2 weeks before my birthday. So I'd always go to birthday parties in Thousand Oaks and see it with my friends and everything. But in terms of this kind of fandom stuff, I remember really vividly seeing the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie in theaters. And that's what really, really like got me into Marvel because I had no idea what any of this stuff was. I was 11 when that movie came out. And and then I started getting into it after that, saw the, Chris Evans, Jessica Alba, Fantastic Four movies, and then obviously got into the MCU, and it's just kind of gone even crazier since then. Marvel's my biggest thing. I got the Deadpool shirt I'm rocking right now. But I'm obviously into DC and Star Wars, and I've learned about everything as I've gotten into this business. But if I had to pick one, I think I'd still probably lean with Spidey. That's been my guy for 20 years, and I don't see any reason to stop now.
Hey, big team Spidey over here too. Last but not least, Sydney, how about you?
Hey, I think my story is like it's interesting because I grew up around. My mom is diehard a Marvel. Like since I was a little kid, before like the MCU was even established, we went to see like the Incredible Hulk, other movies. Like it was like a thing at my house. Like we always went to see it, and Star Wars as well. I actually went to see the Phantom Menace when it came out, but I was 4, so I can't really remember that. But honestly, I'm kind of a flexible person. I feel like I connect with the actor portraying the role, and it kind of gets me into like the character. Like, for instance, the Incredible Hulk. Of course, I went to see it before the MCU, but it took like Mark Ruffalo when he was in the Avengers, where I'm like, wow, I love this character. And the same with Star Wars when Oscar Isaac was Poe Dameron. Like, I just feel like I connect to characters that are not so much underdogs, but it's just like they have like this humanity chip that I connect with. So that's kind of how I view it. Like, I never want to be the person like I know this, and that. Like, I feel like with my fandom, it's been a learning experience. Like, I get inspired by other fans where I get to tune in more, if that makes sense. I'm not sure, but that's definitely how my journey's been with it. And I feel like it grows more. Like, the more content, the more I get to kind of be in tune with like different media and different characters, and it's really fun.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And I'm happy you brought up Oscar Isaac as Poe Dameron too, because both you and Layla have been just going off on Twitter lately about both Pedro and Oscar. Whose love is stronger?
I don't know. It's so funny. I laugh a lot, like how my life has been. I actually had a Stan account, and I used to tweet with Pedro Pascal all the time. Like, literally, I would tweet, I want a piece of toast with Pedro Pascal. He would tweet me back like, me too. Like, so it kind of started from there. And then like I became a writer. So I feel like it's hard to turn it off. Like, I'm still this person who loves both. So that's kind of that, but it's just funny.
That's an awesome story.
Yeah.
You're never going to not be a fan.
Yeah,
exactly. And I'm happy you said that too, about like, now that you're a writer, you feel like you can't turn it off. I think that's such a great thing because Layla and I are both in the, we have a Phase Zero Twitter group chat. and host of Phase Zero, Brandon Davis. That's what drew me to him initially and wanted to follow his podcast. Is he's a fan first and a content creator second, and he just lets his passion bleed into his content. And I think that's so fantastic. And so I don't think you want to turn that tap off. I think you want to just let yourself and your fandom flow into your content. And I think it's a beautiful thing.
For sure.
Yep, completely agree. And I also want to say shout out Lord of the Rings. Nobody mentioned that, but that was a big part of my childhood too. I love those movies.
Yeah.
I watched them so much. So yeah, I'm going to be watching that on Amazon Prime when that comes out.
There you go. But enough of all the other stuff. It's time to talk some Moon Knight. So let's get into it. We're 3 episodes in. I want to know, before we specifically talk about episode 3, the season is now half done. We are halfway through. It's a 6-episode series, and we are 3 episodes through. Garrett, what are your thoughts on the halfway point of the season?
Well, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I love the show. It's my favorite one to date. I love the first 3 episodes, but the 4th episode is really, 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 really good too. So I can't wait to get there, and then obviously to get past that. So I don't want to take up too much time, because I know that TJ, our viewers, kind of probably already know our thoughts. So Layla, I'm going to toss it over to you.
Well, no, honestly, this is like the best thing to happen to me as a person. Moon Knight is definitely my favorite Disney Plus show yet. Just everything. Like, it's like the perfect thing, and it just keeps getting better every week. This is like the first show where I think every week has peaked. Like, it's consistently getting better and better every week, and it's so great. And just seeing everyone kind of like praising everything about it, it's just been so like refreshing, and it's just amazing. And I can't believe we're already halfway through. Like, it feels like we were waiting so long for this. Like, remember when Oscar Isaac posted that selfie with like the eyebrows, like the Moon Knight background? That feels like 5 years ago. But
And like the fighting videos, the training videos.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, literally. And now we're already halfway through, and it's mental, but I'm loving it so much.
Oh, do you got anything negative to say, or are you keeping the hype train going?
Yeah, I'm keeping the hype train going. This was my favorite out of the first 4 episodes anyway. Episode 3 was just, I liked every aspect of it, right from, I think, the opening kind of fight scenes, and then the closing night sky scene, I just thought were just perfect. When I was writing my review for the episodes that we saw, I think I pointed these 2 parts out, and I was like, this is what makes it my favorite MCU project to date ever, just because they were just done so, like, I don't know, I really liked it. We'll talk more about it later, but yeah.
Before we move on,
3, yeah.
Mo, I want to bring this up on the pod, because it's something I'm a fan of. You've been making these little poem riddles, kind of talking about the events of the episodes, and I really enjoy them. So kind of tell me about what made you want to do that, and what you think of when you make those, and what your process is kind of like.
Yeah, I don't really think of them. I just sort of, I don't think about anything on that I treat very clearly. But no, I think, yeah, I just do them because I think Moon Knight is a bit of a puzzle box show in and of itself. So it kind of helps build excitement, and I think there's different things about each episode that stood out to me when I watched it. And based off of how the first couple of weeks have gone, I think it's things that are going to stand out to other people as well, because as I'm sort of watching people's reactions to it, I'm like, oh wait, these are the things I picked up on as well. So I want to try and tease those things out first. Obviously, everything I do, I have to send to Disney, and I'm just like, okay, cool. Can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? And they're like, yes, okay, that's fine. But yeah, no, it's definitely, it's just a bit of fun. So I think about it. Usually it takes me a little bit of time to think about how many, like what am I going to do? How am I going to style each one? And then yeah, I'll think of it within a minute or something, and then I'll time it out. I'll see if I've got anything big going out that day, then I'll time it for a little bit later. But yeah, it's a good way of just sort of keeping the conversation going, not outright spoiling it like some people have.
Yeah, well, I'm a big fan. I think
yeah.
you should keep them going, and next
yeah.
Shakespeare? Question mark.
Oh,
The Riddler?
Maybe I'm.
Oh.
I might have been the first Shakespeare 'cause time travel. But
Oh,
no.
okay, that's deep. That's deep. On that topic, I'm going to toss
Okay,
it to
Tony.
Rich.
Rich, tell us how you're feeling. You got the Star of David on. You've been waiting for this show. We're halfway through. Is it meeting expectations?
I can't say anything different. It's absolutely meeting them, even exceeding them in some ways. Like I before this started, I had a feeling that of all the Disney Plus shows that have come out either last year or whatever's coming out this year and next year, that this really had a chance to stand out as like something just special on its own. And all the different aspects of it. I mean, the fact that it's not necessarily deeply connected to the MCU, so you don't necessarily have to be like an MCU diehard like we all are to get into it. Obviously the action, the visuals, the drama in it. I mean, obviously I've got my personal connection because I'm Jewish, and I'm so happy we got that connection in there. We saw the Star of David on Mark at the end of episode 2, and then this one just absolutely blew my damn mind. I mean, Oscar Isaac is absolutely killing it. He's a national treasure and must be protected at all costs. But no, and it's funny to me too, like, especially for Oscar Isaac's performance, I don't think I've ever seen anybody do the whole multiple personality thing as well as he has in this series. And given I haven't seen a ton of stuff like that, but he is beyond impressing me. Just in terms of that part of his acting. And I mean, obviously the rest of it's great too. And I loved getting the Mark Spector side this week. But no, this show is, like I said last time, it's quickly rising up my ranks of the MCU's Disney Plus shows. I don't think I have any doubts that it's going to be my number one by the end of it.
There you go. We have a lot of high praise. Sydney, you either got to be the devil's advocate or you got to give us some very high hyperbole here to raise the bar.
What's crazy, you're not gonna believe it, but this is the first Disney Plus show I've watched, like MCU wise. Like I never saw Loki or Hawkeye. Like when I get on Disney Plus, I go straight to like the Lego Star Wars section. Like I like don't pass go. That's where I go. But being a huge fan of Oscar, obviously, I was like, okay, well, I would like to see what this character could bring. And then I was kind of piggyback off of what he just said, the mental health aspect. I was really intrigued because I feel like it's important to be sensitive to that. And it can either go extremely left or extremely right. And I feel like Oscar is really putting care into like, hey, people actually suffer from this. And it's a superhero, anti-hero, what it may be, that embodies that. So I feel like he's taken that aspect and really like shown like, I can't really word it. Like, I don't know if this is making sense, but he's put like deep care into every aspect of the role. And it's been a fun first start for me. Like I'm getting to actually learn like a lot of this character because I had no clue of Moon Knight or Mark Spector beforehand. I don't want to lie and be like I knew, but it's been a learning experience and it's been fun watching. Like I feel like every episode I'm like blown away, like wow, this dude is really cool, you know. So it's been great. I've actually enjoyed it. Like I stay up at 2 a.m. just to watch, obviously. So it's been good. Yeah.
That's so awesome, man.
Yeah.
I agree with what you said completely about the mental health aspect. That's something we've talked about a bit on our past episodes with Rich and Mo. And one thing I really like is this isn't like a clinical approach to dissociative identity disorder. Yeah. It's not a doctor explaining to us all the symptoms and stuff like that. It's Mark and Steven's firsthand experience. It's them going through it. It's them learning. They don't, at first, Steven thinks it's a sleep disorder. He has no idea what else is going on. So it's so interesting to see what going through that is just kind of like a taste of what that would be like. And I think Oscar Isaac is doing a very good job of portraying it. And before we get into our spoiler-filled thoughts of episode 3,
and
we're on the topic of Oscar Isaac in general. So I was going to throw it to Layla, but Garrett, hit me. What you got?
I have a question. I have another question for Sydney. Actually, I'm
Oh,
curious.
hey.
I'm curious. It surprises me that you haven't seen like any of the other Disney Plus
Yeah.
shows. So I'm curious if there's any other like Marvel property that you haven't seen, or if you've seen all the movies and it's just the Disney Plus shows. And if so, like,
It's
are you curious about like the lore and stuff that you're missing out on in the world building, or do you know from like what you've read and whatnot?
definitely like I kind of what I said earlier with like going to the movies. I've seen all of them because my mom will be like, don't make plans. We're going to see Thor Ragnarok, or we're going, like, I've gone to see all of them because she won't let that slide if I didn't go. So, but it's definitely an interest in me. Like, I feel like with Moon Knight, I'm like, wow, I feel like I've missed so much in it, because I actually did an article for Pedro Pascal with the MCU, and I was like, it's so many characters that are in this world that I'm not privy to. Like, I had to do deep research on that. And yeah, definitely, like I feel like after Moon Knight, I would love to check out, I've seen great reviews on Loki and Hawkeye, and kind of get to catch up on things that I didn't get to see before, so
For sure. And that's
Yeah.
a great article, so you guys should go check it out.
oh, thanks.
All right, TJ, you can throw it to Layla now. Sorry, I was just curious. I wanted to find out. I wanted to pick at that a little bit more, and I was curious.
That was a
Yeah.
great question. I'm glad that you did. And so, Layla, tell us your episode 3 thoughts. But before that, give us it's time to go off. It's Oscar Isaac time. It is now your time to just like let loose and give us your excitement on episode 3 and his performance.
Yeah, I also would say Sydney, your article on Pedro Pascal was like amazing. I really,
Oh,
really
okay.
enjoyed
Thank
reading
you so
that.
much.
So that was really
Thank you.
great.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Oscar Isaac is one of my favorite people, like, ever. Like, that's
No.
not really a secret.
Is he?
Yeah, I know. Like, surprisingly, like, I actually really like him.
I learned something new about you today.
It's okay.
I know. Yeah, he's all right. Seeing him in the MCU is like my worlds colliding. Like, this is like the best thing. And also, I watch the episode twice, like when it comes out. So I watch it when it comes out at 8 a.m. and I watch it with subtitles. But then in the afternoon, I watch it with my mum, and I turn off the subtitles so I can pretend that he's saying my name, like, without reading it with a Y. So he's just like shouting Layla at me, and I'm like, yes, hi. So that's great. But yeah, I'm just so like, I love him, and he's just amazing. And if Pedro Pascal joins the MCU now, that will just be like my life complete, and that would be like it for me. But yeah, I'm having a great
You
time,
deserve
and
it.
he is so amazing. Yes, and he is just amazing. And seeing everyone praise him every week is just like music to my ears. It's so great.
Is
I love
he
it.
the daddiest daddy?
Oh, I don't know.
Wow.
Like,
Shocked
it's
by the
a
hesitation.
very-
If you're not watching this on YouTube, you're missing out, because you're just missing the deep thought and pondering. And like
This is like the worst
Answer
question
that
I could have
question.
ever asked her in her
The
entire
emotional
life.
I
discord.
know. I'm like, oh no. Like, it's a hard question because I love them both. And like, throwback to when you asked Sydney earlier, like, who's like the number one. I have different like things with both of them. I've stunned Pedro for longer, and I feel like I have more like love. But Oscar Isaac is Oscar Isaac. Like, have you seen that man? Like, wonderful. So yeah, I don't know who the daddy's daddy is. According to Pedro Pascal, well, he was hesitating on his live stream, but then he did throw it to Oscar. Someone did say that it was Oscar, and he was like, all right, he can have it. So maybe according to them two, they had a little discussion, and they were like, listen, someone needs to take it.
If only I
And
could
who
have been
are
a
we to
fly on the
question
wall
that?
for that.
I know.
And so the last 2 things I want to know before you give us your episode 3 thoughts are, how was Oscar Isaac's English accent? And then also,
Terrible.
who would be your Pedro Pascal MCU fan cast?
When the first Moon Knight like trailers came out and he started talking in a British accent, I was wetting myself. I was like, oh my God, what is going on? Like, it just, like, it's not bad, but like from where I'm from, that's not what people speak like. Like, it was just very, like, it caught me off guard a bit, and I still laughed to myself about it. But he's doing all right. It's also great. Look, you can do whatever you want. What was the second question?
Pedro Pascal fan cast in the MCU.
Oh yeah. Anyone, but in Sydney's article, Nova's dad. That was one.
I'm
of the
so
things.
flattered you read that. Like, I'm blown away. Like, you just, my heart just jumped out. Thank you.
Anything with Pedro Pascal in the title is going straight into my brain. But yeah, I really stuck with that one because we know Nova's in development now. And on his live stream, he was scared to answer what his favorite Marvel film was. I've been tweeting.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Like, I've been tweeting about this all week, but he was asked, "What's your favorite Marvel movie?" And he looked off screen, smirked, and said, "Should I not answer? What is it up to?" Like, I know there is something there. Like, the vibes I get off that man, he's so suspicious. Like, I hate him for it, but
definitely
I feel like there's something going on. I know something's going on.
Whenever he did that, I guess he did something for TikTok. I got like 5 messages. Like, I guess people that were on there, they were like, they asked him about Marvel and he hesitated. Like, your power. I'm like, no, don't put that on me. Like, if they call him, that's him.
I literally thought of you immediately after he said that. I was like, oh my God.
I hope that would be so cool.
That would be cool. My fan cast for Pedro in the MCU is Dracula. I think it'd be a lot of fun to see Pedro take on a villain in the MCU, and I think Dracula would be a fun one. Mo, what were before we get to episode 3 thoughts? Last thing before episode 3 thoughts, Mo, what were your thoughts on the accent?
I didn't mind it. I thought, I really didn't mind it. Obviously, I have a different accent. I don't live in London or anything. But yeah, no, I thought it was fine. It was very clearly. I thought it was intentional anyway. And then watched the press conference, and it was like, yeah, no, it was very intentional, meant to be. I don't want to say. Well, yeah, it was meant to be sort of representative of a very specific area in London, and I thought it kind of hit the nail on the head a bit there. But it did sound a little bit funny when you first watched the trailer because no one's expecting it to be that. They're just expecting it to be this New York accent. So when I think when everyone first watched the trailer, they were like, "What's going on here? This is a bit strange." But I think he makes it work really well.
I think it's like the meekness of his voice in the accent that like gets to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's so much like it's I don't know how else to describe it, but like innocent. It's so much more innocent than like the Mark Spector.
Yeah.
I'm just like, like I want to have like tea with this guy.
He's so sweet.
Like the little like latest Gators ones and like his little.
That's my ringtone.
Thank you very much. Like,
That's my ringtone.
It is. I had to make sure for this my phone was off. I would have been so embarrassed if it went off.
Oh no, that would have been
perfect.
Yeah, we needed that content.
It sounds a bit like Stephen Merchant. I find it really is just like him, and I was like, oh my goodness, whenever he talks, I'm like, I can't get this out of my head. I just can't get that guy out of my head, and I'm like, oh god. But no, it's I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. I think it will still be a while until we get someone from Manchester, a Marvel superhero from Manchester, but we're moving closer up north. Slowly.
We're getting there. It's funny that you say like you hear the voice. So after I binged entire season 2 of Bridgerton, my inner monologue was British after that for like a week and a half. Like I can't do a good British accent, but my inner monologue was just like impeccable.
Same thing happened to me after binging Ted Lasso.
Nice.
Yeah, my girlfriend and I were talking to each other in British accents for like a long time when we were watching Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
Not very good, Hers is better than mine, but yeah, still, I relate to both of those things.
Yeah.
Let's hear it, Garrett. Come on, let's hear it.
Oh, no shot you're putting me. No. This is bait.
Oh God.
That's bait.
See, my problem is that I'll admit I can do voices pretty well, but I don't know which one is going to embarrass me the least.
It's always a fun game of roulette, Russian roulette with that, right?
Yes, it is. It absolutely is.
See, I just about spewed like it like 3 or 4 different times into a nice accent, but I'm always scared of how it's going to come out. Like if I can build into it, I can usually get there, but I don't know how it's going to come out. But I mean, I guess my accent probably sounds pretty wild to most people too, just because I got my boots in over here in Canada. But Rich, I want to throw it to you. Spoiler, in-depth thoughts. Episode 3 of Moon Knight. What did you think? What were your highlights?
I mean, the whole episode was absolutely awesome. I am so glad that we just finally got to the Mark Spector part of Mark Spector. And I mean, obviously, like I said before, the dynamic between him and Steven, especially like when he's looking into the knife and talking to himself or just looking in the mirrors himself, Steven's amazement when they went inside the pyramid was just that was pure gold. And I love that reaction out of him. I think, ironically enough, one of my favorite parts of the episode, I've been on Khonshu's, I've been on the Khonshu bandwagon the entire time. And when he drops the guy, or when the guy cuts himself off of that cliff, and Khonshu just goes, I thought you would talk. And are you kidding me?
Yeah, that got me. I was like,
I thought
all right, well, here we are.
I died laughing at that part. And then, I mean, obviously it just got crazier from there. Everything with him and Layla. It was a great episode, and obviously it left us wanting more because holy crap, that ending.
Right, absolutely. Sydney, how about you?
Oh, I love the episode. One of the big things for me, like my favorite the favorite scene out of that episode, I love the rooftop fight scene. Like it was nice to see like the drastic difference between. I actually made a meme. It was like a turtle walking, and I was like Steven versus Mark, and Mark was like jumping over a hurdle. Like it's like the drastic difference between the two. It's like just fun to get to actually witness. And another favorite part of mine overall was just throughout the series has been the scenery. Like I love like filmography and photography. So I felt that it's just been beautiful seeing like the sky and the landscape of where they are. And I really enjoyed it. Like I thought it was a really great episode.
Yeah, I agree completely. Mo, this has been your favorite episode of the 4 you've seen. Tell us why.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously you start off with that with the amazing sort of fight sequences, and I just thought that the cinematography there was, I thought it was really inventive for Marvel, and it's something that you don't see a lot of, like the different ways that the camera moves, and you've got a very distinct sense of where you are in the action. It's not getting overwhelmed with a bunch of cuts, and you've got a very strong sense of like place there, even if they're switching between Steven and Mark, which I believe they did a few times during those fight sequences. And I really enjoyed that. I pointed out because we saw that the VFX weren't finished in the when we watched them, but the blood on a lot of the blood was just added in afterwards, because in that scene where the knife is just inside the guy when Steven or Mark wakes up and the knife is just inside the guy. There was no blood in that when we watched it, and then they added the blood in later. I was like, it's going to look really awkward if the knife just comes out and there's no blood. So I'm presuming that they're going to add it in later. And then the ending. I thought those. Sorry, not even the ending. When Layla and Mark were on the boat, I thought the lighting in that scene was just really, really nice as well, because it made it feel like. I thought it was quite intimate lighting, and it felt very sort of calming. before everything wound up kicking off in the desert, and then the night sky scene, which I think I've been teasing for the last month. I've been teasing that scene coming out just because I watched it and I was like, oh my goodness, this is actually really amazing. Like I was watching it and my jaw was on the floor the whole time because I was like, this is such a great sequence. You've got this thing that you feel is like, is this really happening? Or is this happening just inside Stephen's head? Or is this is it a metaphor for what's happening? And then you you get the reveal that it is actually happening because there's people coming out of their cars looking at this night sky transforming before them, and it's fantastic. And that scene happened just after, because I pointed this out in my review, just after that camera lingers on Oscar Isaac's face and he makes that transformation again. And I think the music, I think one of our friends was saying that the music could have been a bit more subtle, because you could just tell from Oscar Isaac's face that change was happening. But I thought it was also like, if they were going to use any other visual, any other non-visual cues to say what was happening, that the music worked quite well in actually like really establishing that was a change. And I thought it was much better than usually when it changes, because it shows a bit how Mark and Stephen are working together, how they need they each sort of need each other. And I just thought everything in the episode was just completely intentional and perfect, and I thought it was really, really amazing.
Yeah, I agree. It was a great episode.
That's me.
Layla, before me and TJ speak on our thoughts, tell us what you thought of this episode.
I think this could be my favorite one so far. I think the moment where it's Mark talking to like the wing mirror of the car and then it switches to Stephen, like that moment is just so like, oh my god, what is happening? Like his Oscar's acting in that was like my favorite thing. And then he's like, oh cheers, thank you very much. Yeah, that was my favorite moment. It's just so great. And that scene where they're like turning the stars back, I don't know if you guys saw the thing on Twitter of like Doctor Strange looking out of his window and being like, what's going on now? Like could that potentially be how like Moon Knight gets like seen by the rest of the MCU, like by causing something like that? Like just it's just so funny, like thinking like, what is going on? Like who's doing that? But the thing that I like can't cope with every episode is the fact that you can hear the glass in Arthur's shoes. Like every time I hear it, I'm like, oh my god, what is going on? Like it just adds to Ethan Hawke's just like eeriness of the character, and he is an amazing villain. Like he is doing such a great job as Arthur Harrow, and yeah,
and he like walks
so
like just a little bit slower than like everybody else too, and
so
because that's such a great point out.
That cane's not because he has a bad hip.
Talk about walking on broken glass.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he truly is a great villain. Garrett, he said something in this episode regarding Layla's father and the runes. I think it's finally time that you are allowed to unveil your theory that you've been waiting to unveil.
I was gonna wait one more week.
Okay, one more week. That's fine.
I was going to wait one more week.
Okay.
But on that subject, we have been talking about another personality showing up, possibly. Mm-hmm. And I think, another pretty definitive clue in this episode is Steven says something to Mark like, hey, like, why did you do that? And Mark's like, I didn't do that. Like it wasn't me, or it's the other way around. I can't remember, but they both decide like something happened and neither of them was the person who did it. So I think that lends credence to at least one more personality showing up.
Who is it? Who is this personality? I know somebody's got to have written an article about it yet. No?
Of all the ones I've written, I actually have not done one on that yet.
No Lockley articles. Okay.
Nah, but I have thought of it. I have thought about the Jake Lockley thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to pitch that.
Our friend our friend Sarah wrote an article about it for Diz Insider, and she basically, it was like an introduction article to Jake Lockley. But yeah, she did a really good job with that one.
Yeah, I just shared that
because
right
I was asleep when she published it, and I was like,
yeah, I
Yeah,
just
Sarah's
shared
amazing.
that right before we began recording. It is great. So you guys can go check that out on my page or on her page or on the Diz Insider page if you guys find it that way. However you find it, it's a great article, and it will introduce you to the third possible personality that we will be seeing in this show.
And another interesting foreshadow to that character I thought was interesting is one of the places that it's Mark wakes up after not knowing what happens is in a cab. And Jake Lockley in the comics, his personality is a cab driver. So that's an interesting hint. And another awesome part about episode 3 that I've been waiting to talk about for a long time is the Madrapore reference. I've been so excited to bring about this one because there's 2 aspects, I think, that are really exciting about this. One is the potential connection to Sharon Carter, aka the Power Broker. And then secondly, the other aspect that I find interesting is what happened between her and Midnight Man, Gaspar Ulliel's character, rest in peace. Excellent, amazing performance by him, by the way. What happened? Because he said, you're going to talk to me about trust after Madrapore? You're going to talk to me about trust? So what happened between the 2 of them, and what's the potential connection with Sharon Carter? Hands up. Does anybody have an interesting theory about this one? Nothing. All right. So I'm gonna take my lead about it. So I think probably whatever happened between the 2 of them that caused these trust issues, I think was probably in some sort of potential path crossing with the Power Broker, where the 2 of them maybe crossed paths with Sharon, and then things got dicey and they had to split apart and the trust was broken in some way. Why they were going there, I don't know. It's interesting because it would be fun to theorize about the super soldier serum, but that's not really Layla's bag. Layla's bag is more ancient artifacts and stuff like that.
Mystical.
So it's definitely, mystical. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see more of Madrapore, because that was one of the most exciting parts about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And so it's going to be very interesting to dive into that. Sydney, is Falcon and the Winter Soldier one of the ones that you've seen on Disney Plus?
No, I saw with Falcon and Winter Soldier, I saw when it's a scene where Anthony Mackie like busts through like the glass and he's like fully suited. Like I shared that multiple times, so I was like freaking out. It was such a big deal for me, especially him being a Black man and being Captain America. I was like stoked. But no, I didn't get to see that, but I did read about it and I heard that it was like a phenomenal show. And I was like, I need to check it out. I'm one of those people, like I put it on my zodiac sign that I'm an Aries. I procrastinate with everything. I have like 20 movies and 20 shows where I'm like, I'm good. Like people tell me like, how have you not seen this? Or how have you not watched this? And I'm like, I'm going to do it. So I'm definitely going to try after Moon Knight to watch all of this stuff and know what I'm talking about if someone asks me.
Hey, at least with you don't have to do the weekly waiting for it. Waiting a week between every episode. You just binge all of them in a day if you want to.
I remember seeing that with Loki a lot. Like people would be on Twitter like, "Oh my god, like it's been a day," like, and it used to be like so funny. But
the WandaVision discourse was something else.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Mephisto,
that was wild.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, what the WandaVision last year, just over a year ago was intense. Every single week, people would go on. Yeah, and then people were seeing like faces and posters and things like that just weren't there, and they were like, "This is definitely Mephisto." And then
what does the hexagon
mean?
The
toaster with 666.
What does the toaster mean?
The hexagon thing. Exactly that. Like people were just going rabid with it, and
it drove us crazy.
Yeah, it was wild. But
I think my favorite thing was the aerospace engineer. And then
Yes.
just
Oh
some
my.
random person.
I am so.
Yeah.
That is a feature article that I did
no.
that I am so mad that I wrote. I loved writing it. It was a great time, and it turned out to be absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
I'm a little bitter about that.
Yeah. But I think with Loki as well, it was strange because you had this idea that the show was going to be a bit more procedural, or people went into it thinking it was going to be a bit more like a Monster of the Week type thing,
Episodic,
and and then just like it just wasn't, and people thought that about people think that about like What If, and then it wound up being, oh wait, no, there's a huge storyline that you needed to have seen all the episodes to watch anyway, as well. So I think so. Yeah, I prefer that, but it was just funny seeing everyone be like, "Wait, what is Loki even about then now?" Because I don't know. Yeah, people were confused, but yeah.
I think one thing we haven't talked yet about in this episode is, and before I bring this up, I will say an honorable mention of one of my favorite shots in the entire MCU thus far, besides the night sky, is Mark jumping off the glass pyramid and the cape flowing out into the moon. Like that shot is so perfect. I am in love with it.
That was in danger of being really stupid, and it worked incredibly.
Yeah,
it was camp.
But it works perfectly, and I don't care.
Exactly.
I'll die on the hill. I love it, and I'm willing to say that. But moving on from that, there's a like you brought up earlier, Rich. There's a lot of comedy sequences in this episode. Like I think it's like obviously when the kid decides to cut the scarf and
yeet himself off that cliff.
Conchu's like, well,
Natasha go.
Yeah, and then I also thought it was really funny when Steven takes over control in the midst of like the horse fighting and the javelins and everything.
Yes.
And he's like, everyone calm down, we should just chill out for a
Stay
second.
where you are,
Gets,
chill the F
stabbed.
out.
He gets stabbed once and he's like, Mark, take back over. Like I thought that was so funny.
God about that. That's one of my favorite parts. Like he's just like, okay, I'm out.
Yeah, I think he's doing a really good job of portraying both characters so differently. Like I have zero issues telling the difference between the personalities, and like I said in our last episode, Rich, when we talked, I just find it so hard not to root for Steven. Like he's so likable, and I'm always like, oh, you're
There's
cute
no
little
way you
guy.
can't root for him.
Yeah, how'd you get yourself into this sitch? Like,
Just
come on,
deserve this.
Mark, clean this up for my guy, please.
like Mark, if anything happens to Steven, there will be hell to pay.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And I think that this episode really also gave Layla time to shine. And she's one of my May is one of my favorite parts of the show because she's so believable. And what a crappy situation she's in.
Yeah.
She says in this episode, just when I think there's no more lies between us, like something else happens, and you're like, what? You found out that he's got like multiple personalities. Like how could it get worse? And then
Seriously.
we find out that it can possibly get worse. So I think this episode really gives her a chance to shine, as well as future episodes, and I can't wait to see her future in the MCU. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Layla,
I
I'll toss
agree
it
with
to you
you,
first.
G. Before, quick, but before that, I in Layla's time to shine in this episode, something that I thought was awesome is she seems to be beginning to share our feelings a little bit. Like, Mark, you better not let anything happen to Steven. Like, she seems to be starting to like Steven a little bit more than Mark. And it wasn't just that
Absolutely.
he was useful in those moments and she needed him to come out. She seems to be enjoying his time a little bit more than she does Mark's. But Layla, what was your thought on that?
Yeah, that scene after they do the big star thing, the way Steven and Layla are looking at each other, I'm like, come on. Like, Steven is just the most likable person ever. He's so cute, and I feel so bad for him. But yeah, I liked that Layla got her moments in this episode, and that scene on the boat, like, how someone mentioned earlier with the lighting. It was such like a little cute moment, and the hand thing as well. And also like the opening scene, like adding to like the mystery of her, like as a person, like who is the woman she was with? What happened to her dad? Like why did she grow up in this environment? Kind of like what's going on with that. Like I'm so like just intrigued to her as a character, and I'm really excited to see where she goes.
Layla's like, give me more Layla so I can hear Oscar Isaac saying my name. We all knew that that's where that was leading.
100%.
Sydney, how about you?
I definitely, it was the scene where she's doing like the combat with the guns. I thought it was like, I'm a huge like female hero person. So when I get to see women like hanging with the guys, like she didn't need Mark's help. Like she was like bodying everybody. And like, I thought it was so cool. And I was just eager to see more of her. Like, I feel like each passing episode, we've kind of gotten to see more glimpse of like how, like, I don't want to cuss or anything, but how much of a baddie she is. So it was like, it was like so awesome when she was like duking it out with the guy while Mark and Moon Knight's out there fighting. Like, I thought it was like such an awesome scene.
Yeah,
And
I love that you bring that up, because there's a moment where, you know, he's getting pinned down by all the spears, and then like his hand gets pinned down, and she like looks over and she sees that he's like in trouble, so she takes off her like, she like undoes her necklace.
I hope she got that
like,
thing back.
Yeah, I assume she does, because that seems like a pretty useful tool / fashion device. I would wear one, not gonna
Looks
lie.
great. You could stab somebody with it.
I got big. So two interesting parts of that scene is, one, I think you see like the potential foreshadowing of why Khonshu wants her to be his future avatar, with her basically going like full on Moon Knight with that. But another thing with that scene that I thought was really cool was I got really big Logan vibes. Moon Knight is sitting there just getting impaled by so many different things, just like he does in Logan, just like he does in Days of Future Past with that cringe scene. It's great, but like it's so tough to watch when Magneto is just absolutely piercing him with all of those different things. And he says, turns out you're not a survivor, or whatever he says. And it reminded me of that. And then when she pulls out her two things, it was really like X23 or X99? 23, yeah. X23 with the way she just like went full on sprint into him and just like stabbed him with her with her necklace. Like it was awesome. That scene really reminded me of that.
What I love most about it is that she comes to his rescue. Like he's in trouble. She's like, well, I got to finish off my dude. And then she shoots the guy off the horse, which gives him the opening to like, she's the one that comes to the rescue in that scene. And so Sydney, I thought that was a great point, and I wanted to point that out. But I love the callback to Logan, and I do see those ties when you explain that, TJ. Mo, what are your thoughts on Layla? And then we'll toss it to Rich.
Yeah, I love the character of Layla. I thought she was a much bigger part of the show than the trailer let on, and I quite like it. But I appreciate the fact that she's a completely new character. Like, she's not in the comics. She's obviously like an amalgamation of a few different characters. But I thought it really is it. Yeah, she is just a really, really great character. I'm sad that it's likely that we're not going to see her in her own project, only because no other reason apart from the fact that she's a new character. There, like, most of her backstory is going to get throughout this show anyway, because she's only there as like she's only been introduced in this. There's no history with existing characters from the comics, though I suppose they could make a history with them.
Yeah, I don't know. Wasn't there like a supposed Jimmy Woo series like in the works at one point, or they were thinking about that? So like, I wouldn't say that's off.
Everyone wanted the Jimmy Woo Darcy X-Files show.
Yeah,
that's true.
Never underestimate the power of the stands. If the stands come through,
that is true. That is true. But I love the character of Layla. I think she's she doesn't sort of play into. I don't view her as like a love interest, and she doesn't really play into that stereotypical thing. She's just her own character with her own history that happens to whose storyline happens to intersect with the heroes, but she'd rather just be doing her own thing. She'd rather just be kind of like she fits in really well. I don't have anything bad to say about Layla, apart from the fact that I just want to see more of her.
And that she's not being
other
written
than
just
that-
as a love interest, like you said, and that's something we talked about last week a bit, Rich. And a movie that you mentioned that I just rewatched, that Fantastic Four. One of as much as I love that movie as a kid, and it still hits the nostalgia spots for me. One of the poor things about that movie is how Jessica Alba's Sue Storm is written, and she is written literally just as Reed's love interest, as the good-looking woman in the movie, and that's basically just her role. And they kind of don't even touch on the fact that she's the strongest of all of them.
Right.
And it's tough. It's kind of a tough look. And this is the opposite of that. And we talked about that last week as well. What are your thoughts on Layla, Rich, and how did episode 3 change them?
We have come a long way since 2005. I'll tell you that in terms of superhero projects. No, but in terms of Layla, I think she's been awesome. Actually, I mean, she's obviously saved Mark's ass on a couple of occasions here. She can obviously hold her own in a fight. She knows what she's doing, and I'm really loving the dynamic that we're getting, especially now that Mark is, the main persona in the picture. And that was really interesting to see how they kind of work together, especially with their history and everything. But I'm really, really liking her. I wasn't sure, but like you said, how big of a role she was going to play in this series, because really this series is being carried by Oscar Isaac, Ethan Hawke, and May Calamari. I hope I said her name right. Please forgive me if I didn't. But no, it really is Mark, Arthur Harrow, and Layla carrying the series, with a little bit of Khonshu in there too. And she is obviously, doing her part to make sure her part is important in this show. And I'm really curious to see where she goes, especially with, Khonshu having his eye on her, because he obviously has her next in line to be the next Avatar.
It's going to be very interesting to see where her story goes. And it's going to be very interesting to see where Mark's story goes. Now that we don't know what is going to be happening with Khonshu, since he pissed off the gods. We saw the Ennead. We saw the meeting of all the avatars. And one of the theories that I had is that I've been really pushing, I've been going on this one for a while, is I think Gore is going to come in, and I think he's taking all those people out. I think Mark is going to try and demystify whatever's going on with Khonshu. Khonshu tells Steven, he says, tell Mark to save me. And I think Mark's going to try, and I don't think it's going to go well. And I think he's basically just going to be like, all right, let's go stop Harrow by myself, just me, Mark, and Steven. And at the end, he's gonna turn back Moon Knight, and he's gonna be like, wow, how did I do this? I don't know how. And maybe it's a post-credit, maybe not. We're gonna see Gore, the God Butcher, taking out all of those Egyptian gods from the Ennead, and that's what I think is gonna happen. I wanted to do the Funko tour today, but it's getting late. I think I'm gonna have to post the video tomorrow. Before we get out of here, I want to know, does anybody else have any fun closing theories like that? Maybe some Black Knight in London tie-ins, maybe some Blade tie-ins in the future, stuff like that. Give me your closing thoughts, as well as tell the people where they can find you. What do you got going on, and where the people can find you on socials and such. Layla, let's start with you.
Kind of tagging on to what you just said about the God Butcher thing. I kind of want to believe that this is why we haven't got a Thor Love and Thunder trailer yet, because we're kind of waiting to see Gore in this series. And then I was thinking, like the Wanda No More Mutants moment. Maybe there's going to be like a No More Gods, and then that's like the post-credits in Moon Knight, and then he goes after store or whatever. I don't know how the movie's working. And then we get a trailer. That was just like a mini thing. And also talking about Blade. Obviously, we got Mahershala Ali's voice at the end of the Eternals with Dane, and I'm not sure. I was trying to figure out if they work at the same museum. Stephen and Dane. I think it's different. I think there's the British Museum and then the Natural History Museum in London. I think they're different. But you know, like Stephen and Dane have a lot in common, and maybe they've crossed paths at some point, and maybe that could be our link to Blade, and then like the future of the MCU. There's just a lot that could happen. But closing thoughts, I love Moon Knight, and it's just everything ever. You can find me on pretty much any social media at FalconsNet. I'm more floating around on Twitter at the minute, but mainly TikTok and Instagram as well. But yeah, thank you for having me, and Stan Oscar Isaac.
We absolutely love having you as always. And you can find Layla as well on the Agents of Fandom TikTok, putting out content. Sydney, closing thoughts, and where can the people find some of your work?
One thing that I was interested, I was telling my mom, I was on Twitter the other day, and it was I follow like those Twitter accounts that follow Netflix, and they were promoting that for the month of April or May, they were putting all of the Blade movies on Netflix. So I was like, that's interesting. And it made me think, because I know it's been crazily rumored, like he's going to show up at the end of Moon Knight or something like that. So I'm feeling like something's getting closer with that introduction of Blade coming into the MCU, and I'm excited about it. I grew up on the Blade movies, and to see him kind of reintroduced is a big deal. So I'm definitely eager to see where that goes. As far as finding me, I'm on Twitter at Sydney G. McIntyre. And I'm trying to build my social media presence, but I am on Collider if you search me as an author. And I'm happy this was my first podcast. I was so nervous about it, and it was just great getting to talk to you guys. And I feel like you guys are my teachers. Like, okay, now I'm gonna go watch my Disney Plus shows and get in tune with what's going on. So thank you so much.
I'm so glad that you felt comfortable and that we were able to like ease you into it.
I was having a heart attack, like, oh my God, no.
Well, we all
loved having you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Open invite to come back anytime, and check out Sydney's writing on Collider, because it is truly, truly spectacular. Rich doesn't write very much, so there's no need to check out his Twitter stuff.
Yeah. Nah, nothing to promote here. I mean, you said it. I don't take credit for the machine nickname. I gotta thank my guy Liam for that at the Direct. But that's where you can find me, is thedirect.com, on Twitter and Instagram, and maybe someday TikTok at Richard Devins. You know, I pretty much just write all the time. That's my life, and but I kind of like it like that. And as for Moon Knight theories, before I get out of here, I love the Blade idea. I actually really like where you're going with that, Sydney. I think there might be an actually good reason that they put the Blade movies on Netflix. I actually just watched them the other day. I love that idea. I love the Dane Whitman idea. There was also rumors about a certain Hulk potentially coming into play, possibly by the end of this series. I don't think anybody has said anything about Mark Ruffalo coming back yet through the 4 episodes that have been released to the press, but that's who I'm keeping an eye on, as potentially introducing him to some Avengers level stuff, meeting between Mark Spector and Bruce Banner. So I can't wait to see where it goes, and sign me up for more Moon Knight. I can't wait for the rest of it.
Those two could have some interesting conversations.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, wasn't Mark Ruffalo like spotted near the set where Oscar Isaac was? Like, I swear there was like a time on Twitter where someone met Oscar Isaac outside a building, and then someone met Mark Ruffalo outside the same building. I'm pretty sure it was either him and Ethan Hawke or him and Oscar Isaac. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Interesting. Just as Anthony Mackie was on the Black Panther 2 Wakanda Forever set, but he's not in the movie. Mo, where can
Andrew
the people
Douglas.
find you?
Yeah, they can find me on Twitter, Mo from Streamr and Streamr News, and pretty much if you just click on the hashtag Moon Knight, you'll see something that I've tweeted out, because I think I own that hashtag now, just because of all the Moon Knight spam. I was checking my Twitter. I think since the 14th of March, I must have done about 3,000 tweets purely just based off of Moon Knight. I've been tweeting a lot, and I'm like, okay, I need to calm way down. But at the same time, everyone's so excited about it that you've got to just be able to lean into it and build a hype. And it's quite fun. I don't have a theory for Moon Knight, not one that I can share here anyway. But I want to think more about what the director of Moon Knight, or what the main director, Mohammed Diab, what his next Marvel project is going to be. Because I think he's got such a great understanding of the character of Moon Knight, but more so where Moon Knight fits within the genre, like what genre Moon Knight fits in. So I'd love to see him do something a bit more supernatural. I did an article about it and a while ago, and I could really see him taking the reins on like the dark side of the MCU, the supernatural dark side. I'd love to see him go more into that and develop more projects. I'd like to see him do like a multi-show deal with Marvel or something like that, or a multi-project deal with Marvel, because I think he's got a really great understanding of those characters and just how they could interact with each other. And he seems to have struck the right balance between like setting it within the MCU, but not making it sort something that people tuning in week after week, just to see who's going to show up or how many Easter eggs they can spot, because there's a lot of discourse going on at the moment, and none of it is related to, did you catch this reference here? Did you catch that reference there? And I wonder what this thing means. Like, people aren't picking out obscure little lines and being like, oh, okay, cool. Well, this obviously means that he's going to join the Avengers in the next project or something like that. People are looking at Moon Knight as most of these projects should be looked at anyway, which is just for what they are right now, not for what they could be in the future. And I think that's really, really special, especially when you're sort of 24, 25 projects into something, to still have that novelty of like looking at something like it's brand new and not waiting for a familiar face. I think that's a really, really good thing that he's managed to do there. So I just want to, my theory is that he's going to be, when Moon Knight's over, he's going to be roped in for an overall project, an overall deal, with Marvel Studios, similar to Michael Waldron and similar to Jack Schaefer. That's my thing on it.
Love it. And so that will conclude today's Agents of Fandom Roundtable. We were so thankful to have everybody on. Check out agentsoffandom.com, where Garrett has a awesome, super well-written review on Everything Everywhere All at Once, one of his top 10 movies of all time.
Yeah, high praise. I really enjoyed this movie. Seriously, if you have a chance to go see it, it's phenomenal. It'll make you feel all kinds of emotions, and I cannot say any more good things about this movie. It's you have to see for yourself.
I can't wait to go see it personally. That's on my docket. I got to go see Sonic 2. I got to go see The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
That's another. I was about to say, I need to plug that movie because it comes out in a week. If you can make it to the cinema, please go and watch The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent for Nick Cage and Pedro Pascal, because it just looks amazing, and 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's like high praise. I'm so excited to watch it. I'm going to an early screening on Monday, and I'm just so excited. So I just wanted to jump in and say that.
Awesome. And you guys can check out our review on the Agents of Fandom by the great Isaac Joel, which was also shared by the social media for Massive Talent, which is a big thing for us at Agents of Fandom. So go check out our review and go see the movie when it comes out next week.
And keep your eyes peeled to our TikTok page, where Layla will have her thoughts on the movie after she has seen it. And you can find Garrett on Twitter, the real Slim Blaney, on Instagram, the real Slim Blaney. That always trips me up. On
That's one of my
eventually.
I gotta say that is one of my favorite Twitter handles of all time. That's amazing.
Yes, that's the sweet validation that I need to survive. Thank
As
you,
an
Rich.
Eminem fan, I gotta say it.
Me too. Look at this skin. I'm pasty.
You and me both, brother.
Me too.
I see what you did
I
there.
like his crack jokes.
And you can find me on Twitter, TJ_Zworich5. Make sure you follow the Agents of Fandom on all of the socials. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you like the video, subscribe, leave us a nice comment, and check out that giveaway. Anthony Francisco, Uber Monsters Volume 1, all of his Marvel concept art. It's fantastic. You can win that just by heading over to Apple Podcasts, leaving a 5-star rating, and writing a nice review. That'll do it for us on the Agents of Fandom podcast today. Thank you so much for joining us. Peace.